The rain was relentless, mirroring the storm brewing inside me. Manchester was a city I'd always loved, a place of grit and dreams, but tonight it felt like a cage. Alaric, a 46-year-old IT specialist, had built a life here with Bronte, a life I thought was solid, unbreakable. We'd been married for 18 years, a testament, I believed, to our enduring love. Or so I thought. It started subtly, almost imperceptibly. Bronte, a vibrant and outgoing marketing manager, began working late more frequently. Her explanations were plausible: a big campaign, demanding clients, the usual corporate jargon. I didn't suspect anything, not at first. I trusted her implicitly. Trust was the bedrock of our relationship, the foundation upon which we'd built our home, our lives, our shared dreams. But then came the phone calls. Whispered conversations held in the hallway, her voice dropping to a near inaudible level when I entered the room. She'd quickly hang up, offering a flimsy excuse: a wrong number, a persistent salesperson. I brushed it off, attributing it to stress, to the pressures of her job. I wanted to believe her, desperately. The changes in her demeanor were harder to ignore. She became distant, preoccupied. The warmth that had once defined our interaction seemed to dissipate, replaced by a cold, almost clinical detachment. Our evenings, once filled with laughter and shared stories, were now marked by an uncomfortable silence, a palpable tension that hung heavy in the air. I tried to talk to her, to bridge the growing chasm between us. But she'd deflect my attempts with practiced ease, dismissing my concerns as unfounded, accusing me of being paranoid. I started to doubt myself, to question my own sanity. Was I imagining things? Was I being overly sensitive? The turning point came unexpectedly during a weekend getaway to the Lake District. We'd planned the trip as a way to reconnect, to rekindle the spark that seemed to be fading. But the weekend was a disaster from the start. Bronte was withdrawn, uninterested in the stunning scenery, the romantic walks I'd carefully planned. She spent most of her time on her phone, her fingers flying across the screen, a secretive smile playing on her lips. One evening, while she was in the shower, her phone buzzed incessantly on the nightstand. Curiosity, a feeling I'd long suppressed, finally overwhelmed me. I knew I shouldn't, but I couldn't resist. I picked up her phone and saw a string of messages from a number I didn't recognize. The messages were explicit, intimate, filled with a longing that chilled me to the bone. My world tilted on its axis. The words swam before my eyes, each one a dagger twisting in my heart. I felt sick, nauseous, as if I'd been punched in the gut. My breath hitched in my throat and a cold sweat broke out on my forehead. I stumbled back, clutching the phone, my mind reeling. Bronte emerged from the bathroom, her face flushed, her hair wrapped in a towel. She saw the phone in my hand, the look on my face, and her expression changed instantly. The color drained from her cheeks and her eyes widened in alarm. "Alaric, what are you doing?" she stammered, her voice trembling. I couldn't speak. I simply held out the phone, my hand shaking uncontrollably. She took it, her eyes scanning the screen, her face contorting in a mixture of fear and guilt. "I can explain," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "Explain," I managed to croak out, my voice raw with pain. "Explain what? Explain how you've been betraying me. Explain how you've been lying to me for months." She started to cry, tears streaming down her face. "It just happened," she sobbed. "It wasn't supposed to happen. It was a mistake." "Mistake?" I repeated, my voice rising. "A mistake that you've been repeating over and over again. A mistake that you've been hiding from me, lying to me about." She didn't answer. She couldn't. The truth was out in the open, raw and undeniable. The foundation of our marriage, the trust that I had so foolishly placed in her, had crumbled into dust. Her affair was with a colleague, a younger man named Crispin. He was everything I wasn't: confident, charismatic, and seemingly irresistible. At least, that's what Bronte had told me, in between sobs and apologies. She claimed it was just a fling, a momentary lapse in judgment. But the messages I'd read told a different story. A story of deep emotional connection, of shared intimacy, of a love that was supposed to be mine. I spent the rest of the weekend in a daze, numb with shock and disbelief. Bronte followed me around, pleading for forgiveness, promising to end the affair, to do whatever it took to win back my trust. But her words were empty, hollow. The damage was done. The trust was broken, perhaps irreparably. We returned to Manchester in silence, the tension in the car so thick it could be cut with a knife. I couldn't look at her, couldn't bear to be in the same room with her. The woman I had loved, the woman I had dedicated my life to, had become a stranger, a betrayer. In the days that followed, I went through the motions of life, but I was merely a shell of my former self. I went to work, I ate, I slept, but I felt nothing. My emotions were dulled, muted, as if I were watching my life unfold from behind a thick pane of glass. Bronte continued to plead for forgiveness, to beg me to give her another chance. She showered me with attention, with gifts, with promises of a brighter future, but her efforts were futile. The wound was too deep, the betrayal too profound. I knew what I had to do. I couldn't stay in a marriage built on lies and deceit. I couldn't forgive Bronte, couldn't forget what she had done. The pain was too intense, the anger too consuming. I consulted a solicitor and the divorce proceedings began. Bronte was devastated, heartbroken. She couldn't believe I was going through with it. She accused me of being unreasonable, of overreacting. She claimed that I was ruining our lives, our future, but I stood firm. I couldn't compromise on this. I couldn't betray myself, my own sense of self-worth. I deserved better, I knew that now. I deserved a partner who was loyal, honest, and true. The divorce was messy, acrimonious. Bronte fought me every step of the way, trying to minimize her losses, to cling to what was left of our shared life. But I was resolute. I wanted nothing from her except to be free. As the divorce neared completion, I discovered something that changed everything. A mutual friend, Winona, confided in me that Bronte's affair with Crispin had been going on for far longer than she had admitted. It had started almost a year ago, shortly after Crispin had joined her company. Winona also revealed that Bronte had been planning to leave me for Crispin, to start a new life with him. She had been secretly saving money, making plans to move to a different city, to build a new future without me. I was stunned, reeling from the revelation. The depth of Bronte's betrayal was even greater than I had imagined. She hadn't just had an affair. She had meticulously planned to destroy our marriage, to abandon me for another man. My anger, which had been simmering beneath the surface, erupted into a raging inferno. I felt a burning desire for revenge, a desperate need to make Bronte pay for what she had done. I started to investigate Crispin, to dig into his background, his personal life. I discovered that he was married with 2 young children. His wife, Delaney, was a stay-at-home mom devoted to her family. I knew what I had to do. I couldn't let Delaney remain in the dark, oblivious to her husband's infidelity. She deserved to know the truth just as I had. I contacted Delaney and arranged to meet her for coffee. I told her everything, laying bare the details of Bronte's affair with Crispin. I showed her the messages, the photos, the evidence of their betrayal. Delaney was devastated, heartbroken. She couldn't believe that her husband, the man she had loved and trusted, was capable of such deceit. She thanked me for telling her the truth, for opening her eyes to the reality of her marriage. Delaney confronted Crispin and their marriage imploded. He was forced to move out, to face the consequences of his actions. His life, like Bronte's, was in ruins. I watched from a distance, a sense of grim satisfaction washing over me. I had exacted my revenge, not in a violent or destructive way, but by exposing the truth, by holding Bronte and Crispin accountable for their actions. The divorce was finalized and I was free. Free from Bronte, free from the lies and deceit, free to start a new chapter in my life. I moved to a small coastal town, far away from Manchester, far away from the pain and memories of my past. I bought a small cottage overlooking the sea, and I began to rebuild my life piece by piece. It wasn't easy. The scars of the betrayal ran deep, and the healing process was slow and arduous. But I was determined to move on, to find happiness again. I threw myself into my work, finding solace in the challenges of my profession. I reconnected with old friends and I made new ones. I explored my passions, rediscovering the joy of painting, of hiking, of simply being alive. One day, while walking along the beach, I met a woman named Esme. She was kind, compassionate, and intelligent. We struck up a conversation, and I found myself drawn to her warmth and her genuine interest in me. We started dating, and I slowly began to trust again, to open my heart to the possibility of love. Esme was everything Bronte wasn't: honest, loyal, and supportive. She understood my pain, my fears, and she helped me to heal. With Esme, I found a love that was true, a love that was built on trust and respect. We married a year later in a small ceremony on the beach, surrounded by our closest friends and family. I had found my happy ending, a new beginning after the storm. Bronte's betrayal had been a devastating blow, but it had also been a catalyst for change, a wake-up call that had forced me to reevaluate my life, to prioritize my own happiness and well-being. I never spoke to Bronte again. I heard through mutual friends that she had moved to another country to start a new life away from the wreckage of her past. I didn't care. I had moved on, and I was finally at peace.